Steve Hilton. He's the host of The Next Revolution with Steve Hilton right here on Fox News Channel. Good to have you.
Great to be with you.
Good morning.
Hi.
So let's talk a little bit about the big news story. Everybody's talking about the president's comments. First they said he was too vague. Then they said he was right on target by specifying, and then he went back and included both sides again. He's had some mixed messages.
Yeah.
You're an expert at messaging. What do you think?
Well, there is an old rule for all this kind of thing, which is when you're in a hole, stop digging. That is a phrase you hear a lot. I think the problem is he's been in a hole and he's digging, and then he thought he'd sorted it out, and then they went back.
Why do you think that is? Do you think he thinks he was right initially by saying, look, I didn't come out and specify groups in the beginning because we didn't know things then?
I think that truly, I mean, I don't know him, and I don't pretend to have any understanding of what he's thinking, but my impression is that for him, this is all part of his general operating philosophy, which is if you're attacked, you hit back. It's all about being strong and standing up to your critics, especially in the media. The problem is he's not a candidate anymore. Right. He is actually the president. And it's not just about winning, it's also about leading. And I think that what he's going to need to do is lead this country to make some big changes, which is what people voted for. And he needs a sense of moral authority to do that. And I think the problem with what's happened this week is that the critics are so eager to paint not just him, but all of his supporters, the entire populist movement.
Anybody who voted for him would vote for him.
They want to say, they've been dying to say that they're all racist and they're all bigots. And the problem is, whether, completely unintentionally, he's given them an opportunity to do that. Right. And so I think, even though there's that rule about, stop digging and just move on, I actually think that what he needs to do is really show that what people say who know him, which is that he's not a racist, he's not a bigot. Right, well, let's see that. That's not about having some nice speech that's written for him by his aides that people will just dismiss because they say it's insincere. It's not about having another yelling match with the media. I think he needs to sit down and do a straightforward, heart-to-heart interview and just clear all this up. Right. So that he can move on to do what actually people really are desperate for him to do, which is to get the economy moving and do all the things that people voted for.
And talk about the issues that people care about most. It's great advice, because he's not commander-in-chief of just his base, right? He's commander-in-chief of the United States, and this is the time where we need to come together. Speaking, though, of coming together and hate speech, I mean, it has gotten so bad. You know that well. So now companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, they're now policing hate speech. We had Judge Napolitano on earlier on the show, and he said, look, as much as you may not like that, they have every right to do it.
They do have the right, but doesn't mean they should. And I think the real problem is when you get into the definitions. Of course, on one level, we could all agree we don't want this vile, racist stuff out there. And frankly, whether it comes from the right or from Islamist preachers of hate on the other side, there's all sorts of speech that we hate.
Where do you draw the line?
Where you draw the line. And then the real problem is that in Silicon Valley, where I live, frankly, the definition of hate speech is so wide, it actually includes basically anyone who voted for Trump, anyone who's skeptical about climate change, anyone who thinks anything that doesn't fit the ideological viewpoint of the liberal elites in Silicon Valley. That's their definition of hate speech.
That's why Facebook shut down an employees' anonymous group, because too many people were talking about how they voted for Donald Trump and how he's doing all this stuff. Next thing you know, in December, boom, they shut it down.
That's right. I mean, look, we featured it on our show on The Next Revolution, where we actually had anonymous people who work in tech companies having to speak anonymously about the discrimination that they experienced in their jobs just for being Trump supporters.
Steve, big afternoon for you and for Ms. Huntsman here.
We're going to be outnumbered together.
Exactly. He's the one lucky guy. What are you guys going to talk about on the show?
Well, I think that I hope we can talk about a lot of things, and not just the topic that I know has been, the focus of everyone's attention this week. But there are a lot of other big issues, and I hope we can get to them as well.
The country is ready to move on. So I'll see you at noon Eastern time on the Outnumbered Couch. Steve, good to have you with us.